Hi everybody, Charles from Migration. Today, a few words about what is permanent residency and in Australia and why you would like to get one. All right, permanent residency. What is permanent residency in Australia? Permanent residency in Australia, generally speaking, if you're in Australia and if you're not an Australian citizen, you must have a visa. All right, so dependent on how you will be looking at how you categorize the different types of the visas in Australia. One of the way how you can categorize it's about the sort of duration of the visa which you're having in Australia. So we have got the temporary visas, provisional visas, and permanent visas. A permanent visa, generally speaking, is the permanent residency. You can say permanent residency or permanent visa. A permanent visa is granted forever as long as you are living in Australia. But there is something called travel facility, and the travel facility is being granted for 5 years. If you are living in Australia, then you can extend the visa for another. You don't have to extend the visa. If your travel facility will expire and you will be still in Australia, you will have to do nothing. But if you want to travel overseas, you will have to apply for the resident return visa. If you would have spent at least 2 out of 5 years in Australia, then you are getting RRV for another 5 years. If less than 2 years, then you must put the argument that you have got the business family links to Australia, and then you will get the RRV for 1 year. So permanent residency is permanent as long as you are living in Australia. You can lose permanent residency if you will move outside of Australia, and if you'll be living for the extended period of time outside of Australia, and you won't have any links to Australia, any job offer, any job, any family, nothing, you may actually lose the permanent residency, right? So permanent residency is the permanent visa. So what sort of the permanent visas we have got in Australia? So now we can be looking at the types of the visas based on the circumstances, not on the duration of the visa, but circumstances. So there are visitor visas, there are student visas, there are employer sponsored visas, there are family sponsored visas, there are independent visas, there are visas for New Zealanders, so-called special category visa. There are visas for the families of New Zealanders, different types of the visas. But the permanent ones, there is skilled independent subclass 189. There is state nominated subclass 190. There is employer sponsored subclass 186, and there is the direct entry stream and transition stream. For the direct entry stream, you would need to have at least 3 years of the work experience and the skills assessment in your occupation, and your occupation would have to be on the relevant list of occupations. For the transition stream, you would have to be on the 482 visa. So 482 visa after 3 years on 482 if you're on the MLTSSL, but on the 25th of November, so another 3 weeks, new legislation should be introduced that after 2 years on the 482, you can apply for the ENS through the transition stream, which is a big thing. So if you're on the 482 and you want to know more about that, go to noac.us.me and book the free consultation with our employer-sponsored visa expert. All right, so no strings attached. 20 minutes free initial consultation. Book the date, book the time, and then our expert either will call you or you will get the link to Zoom, and you can have a discussion whether we can assist with your permanent residency, all right, through the employer-sponsored visa. So permanent residency is allowing a person to live in Australia until the end of the day, as long as you are living in Australia. It's always a sort of pathway to the citizenship. So to be eligible for the citizenship under the general residency requirements, you would have to be the permanent resident for at least 1 year. So 4 years living in Australia, and at least 1 year out of those four must be as the permanent resident. There are some people who are living for 10, 12 years on some temporary visas, but well, they are not eligible for citizenship unless they would get the permanent residency first. So permanent residency is the big thing. So essentially, if you are able to get the permanent residency, then you are on the quite a good path to the Australian citizenship. Australia is allowing dual citizenship, so you can keep your country of origin passport, but make sure that your country of origin is allowing dual citizenship. I know Indonesia is not allowing, China is not allowing, India I think is not allowing. You will get the once you will get Australian citizenship, then you will have to give up the Indian citizenship, but you will have some sort of the Indian citizen, Indian overseas citizen sort of passport document. So yeah, permanent residency, employer sponsored, independent, state nominated, partner visa. That's another one. If you have got a partner who is an Australian citizen, permanent resident, or eligible New Zealand citizen, you can apply for the partner visa. All right, partner visa, it's a two stages process. There is provisional stage, which first you will get, and after 2 years after the visa application, you will become eligible for the permanent stage. All right. What else? There is Global Talent Independent subclass 858 visa, which is also permanent residency. If you're a highly skilled individual in one of the sectors which Australia is targeting at the moment, chances are you might get actually the GTI sectors. Where are we? Visas for Innovation, Global Talent Independent. One of the sectors. Future focused sectors, eligibility, resources, agri-food, energy, health industries, defense, circular economy, digitech, infrastructure and tourism, financial services and fintech, education. All right. So global talent independent, and there is quite a big pool of these migration program levels. And honestly, every year, I think Home Affairs is not being able to fulfill the quota. For Global Talent Independent, there is 5,000 places allocated for this financial year, and those visas are being granted very quickly. The biggest challenge is to get the invitation. At the moment, Home Affairs is interested in people who are overseas, not really in those who are in Australia, people who are overseas, who are really skilled in their in their sector. So they must be internationally recognized, being on the high level. And what's the tricky bit? Form 1000, it's required for the 858 visa, right? So Form 1000 is a sort of endorsement from the Australian organization, which is very known in the particular field. Okay, so that's quite often it's quite challenging for the people who are overseas. So to sum up, the permanent residency for every financial year, Home Affairs is allocating some sort of the number of visas which they are going to grant for the particular different visa streams. So skill stream, employer sponsored, this is ENS, skilled independent, that's 189. And I believe they have got some 20 something, 30,000 applications in the pipeline for the invitations which they might have sent last year and 2 years ago and are yet to be decided. Regional, that's actually for the 491, 494, which are provisional visas. State territory nominated 30,000, business innovation and investment 1900. Once again, that's for the visa grants. They are not inviting for the 188 visa this year because they have got quite a few applications yet to decide. Global Talent Independent, 5,000 places. All right. So if you are really skilled in one of those target sectors, we want to hear from you. And essentially, you are lodging the expression of interest, which is different than the expression of interest for the skilled visa. And if you are getting invited, then another week or 2 weeks, and you can get the permanent residency. So they are really interested in highly skilled individuals. All right. So that's the one. So types of the permanent residency: skilled independent, state nominated, employer sponsored. Employer sponsored is the big thing. There is tens of thousands of people on the 482 visa at the moment, who over the last couple of years probably lost the hope that they can become permanent residents in Australia. But yes, it's coming. 25th of November, new legislation. After 2 years on 482, you can apply. You will be able to apply for the ENS through the transition stream. Keep in mind that your employer, the same as they sponsored you for the 482, they must nominate you for the ENS visa. So yeah, if you want to discuss whether you can get ENS or not, once again, schedule the appointment with our expert, and we can have a quick chat. No strings attached. 20 minutes free consultation. Whether we have got the case, and if you will, like us, yeah, then we can provide the service. What we do over here, I'm giving all of the information. Don't get me wrong. Whatever information I'm providing over here, it's not the migration advice. It's just the opinion based on the legislation, based on my own research, whatever. If you want the proper assessment, we need to talk to you. We need to check your situation. We need to check your resume. We need to talk to you. All right. So if you need the proper assessment, book the consultation, and then we'll have a chat if we can help you. Apart from dealing with the visa applications and making sure that you will get the permanent residency, sometimes to get to the permanent residency, you need to go through a couple of steps. Sometimes people are able to go with 482 visa, sometimes not. Sometimes when the people are on a student visa, can jump on the 482 if there is an employer willing to sponsor them for the visa. Sometimes a student visa, 485 for a couple of years, work experience, then 482, then the ENS for the transition stream, or if you are lucky enough, you are getting the invitation. So sometimes pathways to permanent residency, it's a couple of different visas through the duration. And sometimes we are having the plan A because we want to get there, and we are thinking that this is the right path, and then the legislation is changing, so we need to carve the plan B or plan C even. Sometimes you are coming to Australia with your partner and you are the primary applicant just to come to Australia, foot in the door, and then once you're in Australia, we focus on your partner's qualifications, work experience, and your partner sooner or later will become the primary applicant for the permanent visa, right? So usually, where is the will, there is the way. So contact us, talk to our expert, and yeah, we'll see what we can do. Quick question, consultation, Zoom, Skype, phone, face-to-face consultations. We are having face-to-face consultations in a couple of different places around Australia. So if you want to see one of our agents, book the free consultation face-to-face. But yeah, permanent residency. Permanent residency is a visa, and don't get mistaken. You can lose the permanent residency, right? It's not like you are safe. Citizenship, yeah, different story. How you can lose the permanent residency? If you are living overseas, if you are not living in Australia for the extended period of time, and you are not having any connections to Australia, you can actually lose the permanent residency. Another one, if you will be naughty and you will end in the court for whatever, 12 months imprisonment, then your visa must be cancelled, okay? Must be cancelled, and then you are dealing with the revocation of the cancellation. So you don't really want to be naughty while you are in Australia. The thing is that getting citizenship, probably it's if you can, go for it, do it. The citizenship, if you can have two citizenships of your country of origin in Australia, yeah, happy days. If not, well, you might need to make a decision where you wanna live, and if you want to keep your overseas, the non-Australian, but the other passport. So permanent residency, it's a visa which is allowing you to live in Australia permanently. What are the perks of the permanent residency? You will have access to Medicare. That's the big thing. You don't have to full-time work rights. You can work wherever you want, however you want, and you don't have to work with some other visa, student visa. You have to study. 482 visa, employer sponsored. You have to work for your employer. What else? Visitor visa. You cannot work on the visitor visa. Working holiday and work and holiday. You are limited to 6 months with one employer. So there is a lot of limitations with all of the temporary and provisional visas. Permanent residency, you're almost like Australian citizen. And you can get some jobs which are not available for people who are not Australian permanent residents or citizens. So permanent residency, it's a visa. All right, it's the what type of the visa? It does not matter if it's gonna be partner 190, 189, ENS 858, or a protection visa. It's permanent residency type of the visa. All right, so thank you very much for staying with me, and thank you for your time. Have we got any questions, or we don't have any questions? What is processing time of section 56 for 190? That's a good question. There is no processing time for section 556 for 190. Generally speaking, case officers are giving you 20 days to respond, but it does not work the other way. Sometimes once we provide the information, once we respond, the next day you are getting the decision, and sometimes they do. After 28 days, you would expect they would do something, but they are busy with the other stuff, and it might take a couple of weeks or months before they will make a decision. And I believe there were a couple of people who got Section 56 before COVID. Then COVID hit, and they swept everything under the carpet. And those people who were hoping that they will get the visa have been waiting for another 2-3 years, and hopefully their visas are back to processing. So normally you would expect that after 5 weeks from the date when you got the Section 56, you might get the response once you provide the information, but it's not always like that. There is absolutely no defined time frame when you can get the decision. All right. So thank you very much for sticking with me, and I speak to you later. Bye bye.